Good morning, and thank you for joining me on the Path to Liberty. It's Monday morning, October 14th, 2019. Now, today's episode, we're talking about NSA spying and how it's actually being used. A lot of people tell us, we hear this pretty regularly, they're pretty dismissive of our opposition to NSA spying. Sometimes even when they agree with us on principle, we'll hear things like, oh, there's more important things to worry about. Just because it's not just the if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear mentality, but it's the mentality that, well, the NSA is kind of innocuous. It's collecting everything, but it's collecting so much information that it really isn't monitoring you. You don't have anything to worry about. And so therefore, we should focus our efforts elsewhere. And while I agree that we should focus our efforts elsewhere, but not redirect away from NSA surveillance, we'd like to actually focus on every unconstitutional act. We just don't have the resources to do it all. But certainly the NSA collecting information is leading to bigger and bigger problems with other agencies. And today I want to talk to you about a declassified court opinion from last year that was just declassified this past week that shows how NSA spying isn't innocuous at all. It's actually as bad as what we thought, how it was going to be used. First of all, my name is Michael Bolden. We broadcast live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time from here in my home office and studio in downtown Los Angeles for the 10th Amendment Center. A quick heads up, most likely I will not be doing a live show on Wednesday, but if I happen to have time to do it, I've got a few things going on this week where I'm probably not going to be able to do Wednesday show. But generally, we broadcast every Monday, Wednesday, Friday through our channels at Periscope, YouTube, Facebook, DLive, and Twitch.tv. We have archived versions at Brighteon.com and BitChute. And then we also have a podcast edition that we publish of the show shortly after we do the live broadcast through iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, and elsewhere. You can find all of our archives, all the ways to subscribe, all the social media channels to follow us on, all the ways to support us, our email newsletter, pitching in through our membership program over at 10thamendmentcenter.com/path to liberty. Again, 10thamendmentcenter.com/path to liberty, all spelled out. Just checking out in the live chat if I can get the application open here. I apologize for not having that ready here. Just want to say hi to everyone who's joining me live over on YouTube. Alan Drone, good to see you, buddy. Thank you for all your support. So I'm good to see you. Justin Bayola as well, EHP Training, Ward Lawrence, Andrew Nappy, Tyler B., and everyone over on Facebook. Inquisitor, greetings, constitutionalists. That's pretty cool to see as well. So let's get into it. First, I want to start out with this article that we just published over on 10thamendmentcenter.com by my buddy Mike Meharry. And he's talking about, the article's titled, All the Bad Stuff You've Heard About NSA Spying Confirmed. We just published it this morning, and it starts out like this. Many people view NSA spying as relatively harmless. They argue it doesn't violate the Fourth Amendment. He's actually encountering a lot of really nasty people who really don't like the Constitution, don't care about it, don't understand it, because they're talking about how it doesn't violate the Fourth Amendment, which is just nuts, because the agency doesn't even look at most of the information it collects, and that's the argument. That, well, they're not even touching it. It's like a database, so they're not doing anything with it, so they're not violating your rights. And Mike points out that this is a fallacious argument. And I like the analogy that he uses here. He says virtually nobody would sit by and let federal agents come into their home, make photocopies of all their personal papers, and then store them away with the promise of, we won't look at them again without a warrant. Sweeping up and storing electronic data is no different. That's an excellent analogy, Mike. That's pretty good. And he says, even if you buy these silly legal gymnastics, by storing phone calls, emails, location information, and web searches belonging to millions of Americans, everybody, the NSA facilitates unconstitutional warrantless surveillance. So even if the NSA isn't combing through it, it's the collection agency, and then they're making the information available. Of course, we were told that that's not the case. They're just storing it in order to protect us from a terrorist. And we should know by now that when they tell us it's for your safety, when they tell us it's for your safety, it's probably a way for them to take more power, take your money, and to rip off your liberty as much as possible. So Mike points out that this ruling or opinion, I hate calling court opinions rulings, but that's the common nomenclature, I guess. He said a 138-page ruling by U.S. District Court Judge James Boasberg confirmed just that. It revealed that the FBI regularly accessed millions of Americans' data that was unconstitutionally gathered and stored by the federal spy agency. So the NSA is collecting the information. Now, the NSA may be stalking you. We've seen individual cases, anecdotal evidence that the NSA is picking out individuals. Jilted lovers are following their exes and things like that work at the NSA. But as a larger practice, the idea, the notion is that they're just collecting the information. They're using it to stop terrorists potentially in the future. But we know that they're making this information available, I believe, to everybody. Everybody in government is going to be able to access this information. And even when they're not supposed to, and we'll get to this in a minute, they use the information, pretend they didn't, and still create kind of a trail to be able to follow that info. So this court opinion that was declassified pointed out the FBI is regularly accessing millions of people's data that was unconstitutionally gathered. The government is accessing the information, Mike writes. It is not obtaining warrants, and this does violate the Fourth Amendment. And we've got the link here. I will put it in the show notes over at 10thamendmentcenter.com/path-to-liberty. 10thamendmentcenter.com/path-to-liberty is where you go for all of this. I will include this. The full thing was uploaded to a document cloud. I'm not sure who put it up there. Maybe it was through The Intercept or somebody else, but it is available here, and you can read through it. I'm just peeking over in the live chat, Larry Clark. I don't trust anything that the government says, federal, state, or local. That is the mentality we need to have. Even if you like the team that's winning elections, you still shouldn't trust them because we know power corrupts. Samuel Adams told this. We know the famous Lord Acton saying power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Because even if you like the guy or girl that gets in there, and you support them, or you support them to oppose the other team, once they have power, they certainly should never be trusted. It should be verify, then still distrust, because their track record is really all that matters, what they do. Sometimes they say good things. On the Water says, I'm going to watch this at work like a comedy. I'm doing this at work. Hopefully not like a commie anymore as well. And Darren over on Facebook, good point, absolutely nothing, zero, zilcho, about blanket spying of U.S. citizens is constitutional at all, period. Agree. And hi to Raymond out in Southwest Missouri as well. So anyways, I've got this court opinion that from the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, FISC, that was just declassified. And here's a report from The Intercept, if I can switch over to it. I would love to. Nope. Looks like my browser froze. Let me see if I can pull it up here on my other computer here. Bear with me just a moment. I guess pulling up that document, they don't like that. They say here in The Intercept, to longtime critics of the government's mass surveillance program, the FBI's abuses are confirmation that federal law enforcement agents are combing through the communication of Americans without warrants, in violation of the Fourth Amendment protections against unreasonable searches and seizures. Going on, these opinions reveal devastating problems with the FBI's backdoor searches, which often resembled fishing expeditions through Americans' personal emails and online messages. That's from Patrick Toomey, a staff attorney at the ACLU's National Security Project. He goes on and he says, but the court did not go nearly far enough to fix those abuses. The Constitution requires FBI agents to get a warrant before they go combing through our sensitive communications. And that, I think, is the issue here. The issue is certainly that they shouldn't be combing through it in the first place. They shouldn't be going through the information at all. If they collect the information in the first place, then someone's going to be tempted to use that information in ways that they're not supposed to. So they absolutely shouldn't go through this. They shouldn't be collecting it because it is ripe for abuse at all times. Now back over to Mike Meharry, and I apologize for a little pause in here because everything is frozen. It looks like everything is still streaming live, but I won't be able to pull up anything. You're just going to keep looking at this court opinion here. So Mike writes in his article, he says, according to the recently classified documents, the FBI was the agency most often accessing the NSA data about U.S. persons, defined it as any U.S. citizen or foreign national legally in the U.S. These are known as backdoor searches. In 2017, the FBI ran approximately 3.1 million searches related to U.S. persons, compared to 7,500 combined by the CIA and NSA. So the big spy agency, the NSA, the one that's vacuuming up the info, isn't the one that's doing all the granular, we're spying on you type of work. That's actually being done by the FBI. 3.1 million searches of this data that's been collected. And they go on. Many of the FBI searches were not legally justified because they did not involve a predicated criminal investigation or other proper justification for the search as required by law. I would just say Fourth Amendment. They need a warrant based on probable cause, particularly describing the person, place, or thing to be searched or seized. And whether that is a bunch of zeros and ones, electronic data or not, is not really the issue. If it's yours, if it's somebody else's, if it's your communication that you haven't voluntarily turned over, then they can't be collecting it. So Mike goes on in his report. He says the FBI often accesses NSA data using an investigative tool known as an assessment. This was a power created after 9/11 and allows the agency to investigate anyone on evidence as flimsy as an anonymous tip. And from The Intercept, again, we see that they put it this way. Because assessments are de facto national security inquiries, the FBI has viewed this as authority to search mass surveillance data for Americans' communications. So they can get an anonymous tip on it, and then therefore they don't need a warrant according to them. I mean, the Fourth Amendment doesn't have an exception. It doesn't say, well, you need a warrant based on probable cause unless it's national security. That doesn't say anything in there like that. Just like the Second Amendment doesn't say, well, the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed unless the gun fires too fast or it carries too much ammo or the caliber is too high. It doesn't have that exception. Just like the power to declare war to Congress, delegated to Congress in the Constitution, doesn't have an exception. It doesn't say Congress shall have the power to declare war. That means it's theirs and theirs alone. It doesn't say that unless, well, the president just has 60 days to let Congress know that he decided to do something differently. There are no exceptions to all of these things. It's clearly spelled out. And Mike points out that this is a tool that they're using, and they're including it in something that we can call parallel construction. He says the court ruling also revealed evidence of parallel construction. Using this secretive process, police build cases on illegally obtained, warrantless data collected by the NSA and other federal agencies without anybody ever knowing. So what they do, this parallel construction, is they go through the information, they know they need a warrant for something, they look for clues, and then they recreate some kind of an evidence trail. This is like just scammy, lying, it's fraud, clearly because they're making up how they got it. And then they create a new paper trail for evidence they already know exists. They request a warrant on it, then they get a warrant to get the information that they already had in the first place. So they wouldn't have had that information had they not taken access of the information that was collected without a warrant in the first place. And then back over to The Intercept here, just have this one section. Again, backdoor searches, 3.1 million times. And here are some individual kind of anecdotal situations that they have some information on. So during a 4-day period in March 2017, the FBI searched mass surveillance data for communications related to an FBI facility, suggesting that agents were spying on other agents. Surprise, surprise. Another one, on one day alone, on December 1st, 2017, my birthday, the FBI conducted 6,800 queries using Social Security numbers. Of course, that Social Security number isn't a mark of any type. That's not a government tracking information. That's just so you can get your benefits, this retirement plan that you paid into. It's just another way that Social Security is a scam. Another example, a contract linguist for the FBI conducted searches on himself, other FBI employees, and relatives. And last, the FBI regularly used mass surveillance data to investigate potential witnesses and informants who are neither suspected of crimes or national security concerns. So these are just some examples. The FBI put a statement to the FISA court. They said they blamed them on problems of fundamental misunderstandings by some FBI personnel about what the standard reasonably likely to return foreign intelligence information means. So you have this, they go on, instead of using the Fourth Amendment, they have their own standard on what they can collect, what they can surveil, how they can monitor people. And their standard is reasonably likely to return foreign intelligence information. Again, it's for your safety because they're only trying to stop foreign bad guys, is the way to get you. It's the way to actually take your liberty. And this has been going on for a long time now, and we just have some really interesting examples of how it's playing out, and it's playing out in a big way at the FBI. Peeking over in the live chat again, a lot of interesting back and forth. Ward Lawrence says it's time for Texas to secede. May as well have been for a long, long time. Frank I says these days your TV watches you more than you watch it. Raymond points out this is the same FBI that let Hillary walk free. I think they're all walking free. And Ward also asked, should the FBI be abolished? I don't think any of these agencies follow the Constitution. Even the ones that are supposed to exist, they're still exercising powers that should never be there. Now, there wasn't an FBI forever, so the founders didn't create an FBI. That means it isn't absolutely necessary. And I would say if they can't follow the Constitution, they should get the hell out. It's pretty straightforward. John Gordon suggests that all the agencies have been taken over by a foreign country. That's right, the U.S. is being operated by foreign operatives. I mean, I don't know about that, but they're not good. What they're doing is not in line with the Constitution. EHP training, absolutely with you, buddy. Trust no one. Justin Bayola says, I tend to agree with you as well. I appreciate all that back and forth. And John Harden, yes, it's always for our safety. We're told that if they don't mandate a health insurance program, it's for our safety. People are going to be dying in the streets. If they don't have the power to indefinitely detain or assassinate American citizens, even on American soil, we're going to have terrorist attacks. If we don't have a Patriot Act or unconstitutional wars or more gun control or more government spending and federal programs, it's always for our safety, for the children, for our protection. And I've said it on this show a number of times, and I'll probably mention it in my speech over for the Mises Institute next week, Saturday as well. Not this Saturday, but the following. I think it's the October 26th at their annual supporter summit here in Los Angeles. That John Adams wrote back in 1776, fear is the foundation of most governments. And I would probably just disagree with maybe one word there, probably just the word most, because government is able to exercise power, especially in these ways, because people are afraid of the outcome of the government not exercising that power. So as long as people are fearful for their lives and they're trusting some politicians to protect them, then those politicians who are always corrupted by having power are going to continue to exercise more and more power in more and more dangerous ways. Jip came home says those who trade for safety for liberty deserve neither. And that's a paraphrase of the famous Benjamin Franklin quote, I think it was originally in the 1750s. He basically said those who trade essential liberty for some temporary security, deserve neither and will get neither. So that is, I think, holds true as well. I also want to say hi to Anna Reyes over in the live chat. And Shane says, how do we make the change and become organized without being arrested for sedition? I don't know if they're arresting people for sedition, so we don't have to worry about that yet. They certainly have the powers to do things like that, but we certainly have to keep talking about this, and we have to keep resisting as we can. Now, I'm not going to cover all the strategies on this episode because that's an episode of itself. I probably have some links that I can include in the show notes of some ways forward. I do think, Justin, the first place that you might want to check is our annual State of the Nullification Movement report, which is over at 10thamendmentcenter.com/report. It's about an 80-page annual white paper that we do. It's last updated for last year, and we'll be updating in the next few months for 2019. But the first section of it, it's divided into two parts. The first section is really the same from year to year. It has some minor differences, but the first part talks about the philosophy, the principles, the constitutional basis, and the strategies behind state, local, individual nullification efforts, including surveillance. And the second part goes over ways that we're finding success and even some of the struggles and roadblocks that we're facing on doing this. But we have sections in there on mass surveillance, NSA spying, automated license plate reader surveillance, stingray surveillance, and the like, on efforts to reject that and protect privacy, even though the feds don't want us to do that. Hi also to Dan Reed in the live chat. Good to see you, Dan. And then let me just I guess try to wrap this up. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to stop the stream. So because my whole machine is frozen, I can't switch from shot to shot, and I can't switch my browser, all because I opened up. For you conspiracy guys, you're going to love this, because soon as I switched over, if you're watching the video here, as soon as I switched over to this declassified Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court opinion from October of 2018, then everything froze up. But luckily, I've still been able to continue the live stream, at least what it looks like here. So taking a quick look here one more time, this type of the assessment, again, they allow, this is what the Intercept has to say, they allow the FBI to investigate anyone for reasons as scurrilous as an anonymous tip suspected of being a potential national security threat. Although the law doesn't establish a time limit, FBI policy generally limits assessments to 72 hours. And again, because they're de facto national security inquiries, they don't feel the need to follow the Fourth Amendment. Somehow the Fourth Amendment has an exception for national security. And the fact that they're using national security concerns explains why it doesn't properly document. So they don't even keep records on this, or they don't share it. They might have all kinds of records. If you watched V for Vendetta, there was a great scene in the film where they're looking back through history, and there was one point where they said, you know, one type of record keeping that government always has is tax records. So maybe we'll find out at some point that FBI and NSA records are pretty detailed as well. But the FBI told the FISA court that providing written justification for accessing the data as required by law, even beyond the Fourth Amendment, they passed another law to tell them what to do, would, quote, hinder the FBI's ability to perform its national security and public safety missions. Again, the notion that they have to be able to look at your information, spy on you without even a warrant is the notion that they're protecting you. But I would make the case that they can't protect you if they are not following the Constitution. We cannot be safe unless we are free. And you're not going to have total pure freedom in there, but certainly far more than we have today. And I think there's a great quote, and I don't know if I can pull it up here, but there's, oh no, I can't. There's a great quote from James Madison that I cite pretty often here. And I'm sorry again for not being able to pull it up on the screen here. I can't even do a force quit. Nope. We're just going to stream the whole day. I'm never leaving here because I can't even stop the software from running. So Madison's quote that I think is really timeless and just can be repeated at any time. He says, the means of defense against foreign danger, real or pretended, are always the instruments of tyranny at home. Always. So whether there is a real foreign danger or not, if there's a real foreign danger, if we're really under constant threat of terrorist attacks, James Madison is telling us that they're going to use the powers that we give them to stop those terrorist attacks to impose tyranny on us at home. Madison is also a bit of a conspiracy guy. He's telling us that if they don't have a real danger from abroad, they'll make one up. They will literally make one up in order to take our liberty at home and impose tyranny. He said they are always the means of defense against these types of foreign threats, whether they are real or pretended, are always. Not sometimes, not once in a while, not most of the time, but always. Well, I hope you guys found something interesting and educational on this episode. More importantly than anything, educational is really the big key here. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast. I hope that I can find a way to actually end it here, because I've got some other work I got to get to, including posting this, doing the post-production to get the podcast version up, and all the show notes over at 10thamendmentcenter.com/path-to-liberty. If you do like the show, make sure to smash the like button. You'll want to subscribe, get bell notifications. You can pitch in as little as $2 a month over at 10thamendmentcenter.com/members. And of course, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time with me today on Monday. Again, as a reminder, I will probably not be here on Wednesday morning, but then back on Friday. I may end up doing a surprise show on Wednesday. Anyways, again, thanks for joining me. I hope you had a really good weekend. I hope your week is off to a good start today, and I'll see you next time here on the Path to Liberty. And we'll see if I can get this thing ended.